Part 28. Infinite Doomsday Start Draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 271. In their opinion, it doesn't matter if Ruger rushes into Rogue Town to save people. Even better. After all, if he meets two ghosts on the road, will he watch the ghosts kill people without helping? It is obvious that he is still a potential helper, so let him go. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. These things are basically understood by everyone. However, no one dares to say it. Because the facts of this matter are facts, and it is really not good for some people to look good. The key is that the boss with an ugly face is not capable of fighting with Ruger, but he has many ways to deal with his talkative subordinates. So, the paladin cult on the city wall tacitly jumped off the city wall one by one and rushed to the core temple as if they had suddenly forgotten Ruger outside the city. Brother Lu. Seeing this situation, Anya was also full of question marks, and couldn't help asking the man behind her what to do. Go back first, clean up the battlefield, and then see what's going on. But, the ghost army is attacking Rogue Town. Anya asked anxiously, this is the first time I've heard that the ghosts will take the initiative to attack us. Yeah, me too. Ruger turned around and looked in a certain direction, saying meaningfully. That direction was not a Kara on the city wall, nor the temple in the center of the town, but the direction Sarah left before. That was also the direction of the ghost cave. It's okay, no matter how powerful the ghost army is, it can't beat the monster army. Ruger turned around and comforted the little wizard. The Paladin Order has been accumulating strength for so many years, isn't it just to one day attack Huanglong, kill Andariel, and become the real savior? Otherwise, they wouldn't be so opposed to Sarah pushing the war front forward. Now that their nest is attacked, why don't they show their skills? In addition, I also suspect that when they went to get those artillery, they angered the ghosts and were blocked at home. Will it happen? After hearing what he said, Anya really believed it. But she quickly realized, no, I heard from Minerva that you guys were even worse in the ghost cave last time. If you want to talk about anger, you have already angered the ghosts to the point of extreme anger, but you didn't see them attack you. Hee, you don't understand this. Ruger laughed with some pride. Let me give you an example. You are walking on the street, and suddenly someone comes and bumps into you. You go to him to ask for an explanation, but he not only doesn't apologize, but spits in your face and runs away. Tell me, if you are angry, do you really want to catch up with him and beat him up? Oh, what kind of metaphor is this? It's so dirty. Anya grumbled a few words, but still nodded and said, okay, there is a little bit of that. Then think about it, Ruger said again, or someone suddenly bumped into you, you called him to apologize, but he took out a knife and stabbed you several times. You shouted for help and arrest, and fell to the ground trembling, and almost died there. In the end, the person ran away. Fortunately, you are lucky enough to be saved. It's just that the wound hurts slightly when it's cloudy and rainy, and the pain reminds me of the feeling when I was on the verge of death. Tell me, will you track down the whereabouts of that person in a big way and let the whole world know that you want to avenge this stabbing? Am I stupid? Doesn't that mean notifying that person to come and kill me to silence me? Anya replied immediately, and she understood after she finished speaking. But after she understood, she burst out laughing subconsciously, turned her head to look at Ruger on the top of the gun cabin and said, Brother Lu, are you comparing yourself to a ruthless bandit who stabs people at will? Did Guy May scare you so much that he didn't dare to seek revenge on you? Hee, in this kind of thing, being a bandit is better than being a victim. Ruger laughed casually, being alive is better than being dead. As he spoke, the 8 anti-tank guns he had taken back had been taken back by him. In addition, the body of the werewolf druid Joshua, who had not been taken back by the broken paladin team because he had not received Ruger's approval, was also disposed of by Ruger. This was the first time he recycled the body of Nephite Yen as if it were a monster's body, and he actually got a lot of points from the system. This means that there is probably still a lot of magic power in this guy's body. If he hadn't dealt with it early, it might have been recycled by some forces and transformed into an undead monster to continue to harm people. After finishing all this, he asked Anya to drive to the capital and prepare to go into the town. The town gate is nearly 5 meters wide, not to mention high, enough for the bare assault gun to enter. After all, Ferdinand, who was wider before, rushed out directly from there. He had just entered the long corridor of the city gate when he saw a group of girls dressed in robes not far away tiptoeing and avoiding the paladin guards and rushing towards the city gate. Behind the first few rogues holding wooden bows, there were several others carrying a simple stretcher, on which was the person that Ruger wanted to save this time. Minerva. Hearing Ruger calling out Minerva's name, the rogue team immediately looked over with caution. However, after seeing his appearance, the leader immediately turned from vigilance to ecstasy and shouted directly, it's that Lord Ruger. Quick, let's go over. Ruger thought to himself, when did he have such a strong appeal? There are even rogue fans. But after a closer look, he found that it was clearly Sarah's frontline rogue warrior who had fought with him before. According to the rogue's own rules, frontline warriors and town guards would also rotate at a certain frequency. This should be one of the rogues who was rotated back shortly after he rescued Sarah and launched the frontline forward operation. It was normal to know him. Seeing Minerva being carried out by the rogue, Ruger also hurried to greet her. After 2 or 3 words, both sides roughly understood why the other side appeared here. There is no need to say more about Ruger. On the rogue side, they were really the city defense patrol guards who were first deceived by the cult, then imprisoned and finally imprisoned in the cult's headquarters. Although the details of the whole process were different from Ruger's guess, it was generally the paladin cult that took the opportunity of Kasha's death to deceive them and imprison them. Minerva, who was also imprisoned there, was gathered with them in this way. As for escaping, it was just when the ghost attacked that they happened to break the wall of the prison where they were, and most of the paladin guards went to fight, so they gathered together to knock down the remaining guards, snatched some weapons and ran out. As the guards of Rogue Town, they were obliged to fight when they encountered an enemy attack. But things have developed to this extent, how can they be expected to help the people who imprisoned them just after escaping? Could it be that if they helped them repel the enemy, they would be imprisoned back in prison by them? Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 272. The fact that the rogues didn't take the opportunity to retaliate against the cult behind their backs was already a great kindness to Rogue Town. Ruger didn't know whether others would have other ideas, nor did he want to know. He only knew that when he saw the once strong Minerva on the stretcher now barely breathing, he wanted to help the ghosts defeat those paladins immediately. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. At least he would deal with the ghosts after they were all killed. Thinking of this, Ruger had walked to Minerva and held her hand. Minerva opened her eyes tremblingly, and when she found that the person in front of her was Ruger, her eyes immediately burst into excitement and relief. However, her first words were not greetings to her old friend, but, "Hurry, hurry, and warn Sarah, the cult has obtained the lost one weapons from the ghost to deal with her convoy. Tell her to be careful." Ruger felt a little distressed when he saw her like this, and he couldn't help but point to the top of the wall behind him after hearing that she was trying so hard to say this. "If you are talking about the anti-tank gun made with the grasshopper cannon, then don't worry, I have destroyed them all." After saying that, Ruger took out a shot of healing potion and injected it into Minerva's arm. After hearing what he said, Minerva on the stretcher didn't have time to feel the tingling in her arm, and she opened her mouth wide, looking unbelievable. But soon, her expression eased, and she even chuckled, "Haha, you are worthy of it." I don't know if the potion worked, her voice was much calmer than before. I thought Sarah's convoy would be severely damaged by them this time. Hey, I didn't expect that you would deal with them before they left the town. These idiots, haha, do you really think that those things are equally powerful in anyone's hands? Ha, I just explained this to them. Lugger laughed. Seeing her expression gradually relax and change from the previous pain, he was relieved. Hey, do you know, Minerva smiled and said, they saw that I could drive a chariot, so they thought I must be able to fire cannons, and actually interrogated me about how to use those cannons. Haha, these grandsons will never know why they can't torture me to tell the truth even if they use all kinds of methods. Because I'm telling the truth. I really don't know how to use that thing. Lugger then knew why most of the Rog were still intact, but she, Minerva, was so weak that she had to be carried on a stretcher. The people of the emotional cult got the magic modified Ferdinand, not to mention that they also wanted to get things like the artillery manual from her. How could she have that thing? Moreover, even if she got it, what would happen? Can she be compared with Ruger, who was born to build cannons, and Tia, who was born to fire cannons? Absolutely impossible. Even if they got the full set of artillery tutorials from the Lost Age, they would still lose. As she spoke, Minerva's face, which had just relaxed, became red again, and she couldn't help coughing. Okay, don't talk in a hurry, go home first, and talk slowly when you get home. Ruger interrupted Minerva, who was still about to speak, and casually summoned an armed truck, letting the rogues take her on it. Who among you can drive? He looked at the rogue team of more than 20 people and asked. Me. I can. Several people raised their hands immediately. Needless to say, these rogues probably just came back from the front line. So many rogues came back from Sarah, so now Ruger didn't have to ask why the cult had to use tricks to control them. It was obvious that even if they were not Sarah's diehard fans, they would lean towards her in their hearts. No matter who wanted to cause trouble in Rogue Town, or even change the sky of Rogue Town, they would definitely not let them continue to serve as city defense and patrol. On the contrary, the cult did not do anything to them, and let them stay alive and well, which surprised Ruger. But thinking about Akara's rogue guards, he could more or less guess the cult's original plan. It was all kinds of mental control again. In short, there were so many people in Rogue who could drive, so Ruger was relieved. He casually summoned 2 more armed trucks for them, and with a little squeeze, it would be no problem for more than 20 people to take the car. Do you know the way to my second shelter? He asked several Rogue drivers. Yes, one of them replied. Okay, then you go ahead and lead the way. With the current situation in Rogue Town, it's hard to say what will happen in the future. Sarah will probably come back to check the situation. You are all eyewitnesses. It's better to rest at my place and wait for her news than to travel a long distance to the front line now. You may not encounter any danger on the road. There is nothing wrong with what Ruger said. Except that Sarah is not likely to come here but has already come. What he said is the truth, which is also the best solution for the rogues. So soon, a rogue agreed, thanked Ruger with gratitude, and quickly drove away from Rogue Town. Of course, he also had some selfish motives. With the current situation in Rogue Town, if the cult can't control the situation, this largest gathering area of human survivors that has lasted for at least 30 years, or even 40 years, is likely to be ruined and end. At that time, whether for the survival of mankind or for the feelings of all friends, Ruger will have to rescue most of the survivors and move them to a safer new gathering area. That can only be the second shelter, or the Mountain Special Operations Battalion camp further down the underground maze of the Forgotten Tower of the Bloody Countess. The second shelter is close, but the space is a bit small compared to Rogue Town. It is very likely that it will be used as a transit supply station in the end to pull people directly to the underground military camp. To complete such a large migration, it is not enough for all the people in Ruger's second shelter to go on the field. What's more, except for the dozen or so human guards, the remaining 10 or so people have no combat ability and can only do some logistics work, so they can't be guards with the team and go back and forth between the underground camp and the second shelter. This manpower gap is just right for these rogues. It is also because of the same calculation that after sending away the 3 cars of people, Ruger immediately set his sights on the rogue guards who were still performing the morning ceremony on the city wall. I don't know if it was intentional on both sides. When the previous team of rogues came over, they didn't say hello to the rogue guards on the city wall. And the rogue guards didn't ask these rogues to join their mourning. It seemed that the two sides were strangers and were not in the same world. Ruger initially thought that they just didn't see it. But in the process of talking with the rogues, he noticed that a considerable number of rogues would look at the rogue guards on the city wall intentionally or unintentionally. And in their eyes, instead of admiration and worship, they were full of resentment and disgust. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-chi-ji. Chapter 273. Rogue's performance, coupled with what Ruger learned from them about how they were gradually controlled and imprisoned by the cult, has already explained a lot of problems. In this regard, Ruger could not help but guess that the cult probably took advantage of the trust that Rogue had in those rogue guards. It was normal for Rogue not to want to have any contact with these people after being betrayed by his trusted predecessors or even superiors. Although those rogue guards now seemed to be out of the control of the cult, it was hard to say whether it was temporary or permanent. Ruger did not bother to be the middleman for their reconciliation now. However, he himself needed to go and see. This time, he did not continue to run around in a bulletproof vest, but changed into an improved version of the Iron Man suit. This is an intermediate form that can be seamlessly connected with the Iron Man armor, but can enter the cockpit at any time without being stuck due to its large size. Vocabulary: half-baked, half-bottled, not as good as the best but better than the worst. In short, in order to be able to enter and exit the tank freely, this suit must not be too big. Basically, this is a full-body bulletproof vest that replaces Kevlar fiber material with Iron Man energy material. There is even a helmet, as well as tactical glasses and gas masks used with the helmet. He dressed like this for no other reason than that he was worried about these rogue guards. If they suddenly attacked and hurt people, with this Iron Man suit and the MG5 general-purpose machine gun in his hand, he would still be able to fight and escape, and run back to the gun cabin of the Bear assault gun. In close combat, he still likes fast firing rate. But when he jumped onto the wall and walked to the side of the rogue guards, he saw Akira in the middle of them shining brightly, and all his little thoughts were thrown out of his mind. What's going on? He had a lot of questions in his head, but he couldn't interrupt the rogue guards who were concentrating on reciting the eulogy, so he had to stop at a slightly forward position to observe closely. He found the problem at a glance. The dead Akira had been very peaceful before, but now that she was enveloped by the light blue and purple light, her expression seemed to have changed subtly. It was like a sleeping person was disturbed by a faint nightmare. But under the chanting of Rogue's guards, the light on her body became brighter and brighter. At first, only the skin was glowing, and after a while, it seemed that every inch of fat, muscle, and even organs and bones, etc., also emitted light of their own specific frequency. At the same time, Akira's facial expression slowly relaxed, and gradually returned to its original tranquility. When the light of all parts was so strong that it covered the original flesh and blood, the light scattered everywhere suddenly merged together, and then it merged into a blazing light like a supernova explosion. After a while, when the light faded, Akira, who was sleeping there, had completely disappeared. What is this?" Ruger asked with his mouth wide open. "This is star burial, a funeral method unique to the senior monks of the Blind Sisterhood. The captain of Rog's guard slowly stood up and explained to him. Lady Akara has returned to the stars and will become the infinite eye, always watching us. Humph, that sounds good. A familiar voice came from behind Ruggy. Isn't it because you are afraid that her body will be resurrected and used by that guy again, so you turn her body elements into magic power and let them naturally dissipate between heaven and earth? Young master, hearing the voice of the person coming, Rog's guards turned around. Sure enough. As soon as he heard the name, Ruggy confirmed that he had heard it right. The person who spoke was the granddaughter of Akara, the only female necromancer, Gialia, who had just been rescued by the captains of the paladins. Don't call me young master. I have nothing to do with you, Rog. The man still spoke stiffly and indifferently. But the next sentence exposed her true heart. I just came to see her and send her off. After saying that, seeing that Rog was quietly and slowly moving towards the city wall, she said with a mocking but calm tone, "Are you afraid that I will suddenly attack? Don't worry, those monsters that suddenly appeared destroyed the Paladin's temple tower. Cut off their control over old Grandma Akara, and at the same time cut off mine. Otherwise, with Joshua, that scumbag beast, would I fight for him? Bah." Seeing that Rog didn't say a word, but just stared at her blankly, the female undead Gialia couldn't help but raise her eyebrows and snorted, "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a beautiful woman scolding people?" Rog thought that he had seen it, but he had never seen someone scolding people while calling herself a beauty. Good fellow, I thought this guy was just a little gothic because of his profession as a necromancer, but now it seems that his temper is no less than that. Even if he is not gothic, this guy is enough to be an emo-depressed non-mainstream. However, although he was still a little wary of this person's words, Ruger at least understood that she wanted to say that she had no clear conflict with Ruger for the time being, so she would not take the initiative to attack. Although it was her business to say it or not, and it was Ruger's business to believe it or not, but Ruger was really willing to believe it in this matter. If Tia or Sarah, even Minerva was here, they would definitely expose him in one sentence. You just want to give her another chance because she is beautiful. If she were a man, she would not believe that you are so kind. If that's the case, as long as it wasn't Tia who said it, he would definitely shamelessly say so. What? What if Tia said it? What else can it be? Of course, I didn't, don't talk nonsense, deny it 3 times in a row. In short, Gialia got an extra chance, and Lugger did not start the machine gun for the time being. Lord Ruga, seeing that the two had no intention of fighting for the time being, the head of the Roach Guard looked at Ruga and said, "I know you won't trust us. Although this is our own choice, although we can argue that this is all for our Lord. But we are willing to be used by the devil and her other roaches. This is an indisputable fact. We will not ask for anyone's forgiveness, but will continue to fight with this shame. Now that the Lord has passed away, the shackles that the devil has bound us are no longer there. We will choose our own way to wash away our sins until we meet the Lord again. Roach Town, and other roaches, please take care of you and other lords. I know you don't trust us, but there is something I must tell you. This is what Lord Akara asked me to tell you before he died. For Lord Tia, be careful of Sarah Kerrigan. For Tia, be careful of Sarah." Hearing this, Ruga frowned naturally. With this frown, even Rog's personal guards turned over and jumped off the city wall, disappearing into the forest on the north side in 2 or 3 steps, but he did not say a word to stop them. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 274. The female undead Gialia was really impatient to see him like this, so she went down to tease Anya. Google search reading. As a result, the little wizard was teased by her and screamed directly. Ruger woke up from his dream and hurried to save his grandson from the grandson. What are you doing? Don't bully my Anya. Ruger is now addicted to protecting his granddaughter, and he is full of fatherly spirit. As soon as he spoke, there was a posture of a girl's parent to send a male friend away. Oh, now this situation may not only affect male friends, but also female friends. No, it's okay, brother Lou. Giulia is my senior sister. After all. Anya was a little embarrassed and a little happy. Google searched can. Oh, Anya, you actually have this expression. Giulia, who was leaning next to the little bear assault gun, pinched Anya's little face and teased. Don't tell me that you are attracted to this guy. What nonsense are you talking about? He is my grandfather. Anya waved her hand hurriedly. Shut up, don't teach my Anya bad things. Ruger came over and knocked down Giulia's hand that was pinching Anya, and protected his granddaughter behind him. What? In fact, Ruger didn't even need to use himself as a shield. When Giulia heard the word grandfather, she was already dumbfounded. You guys, what's the situation? As soon as Ruger heard it, he knew that the relationship between this gothic girl and his grandmother was not ordinary. Such a big gossip about old Popsicle himself, but he didn't even hear it from Akira. But on the other hand, this may not be able to show that Akira is tight-lipped. It's a pity that since she was controlled by the devil behind the cult before, no matter how tight-lipped she was, the devil at least knew these things. Giulia didn't know, which only meant that her status in the cult was similar to Anya. They were just trick thugs and couldn't be considered core. While Giulia was imagining the strange relationship between the two, Ruger turned around and saw the paladins near the southern river wall running towards the center of the town. It seemed that the ghost in the river had been dealt with, and they began to return to the temple. Ruger thought to himself, why is this situation so inexplicable? It was the first time for the ghost to attack Rogue Town, but it actually fainted in the river in the south, and then went straight to the core of the paladin cult, the temple. It is easy to play a feint, but the ghost took advantage of a defensive blind spot in Rogue Town, which is the southern river that has always been considered safe. There are dams upstream and downstream of this river, and Rogue Town will have troops patrolling regularly to clean up the demonized aquatic creatures in it. So the last time something attacked from the river was more than 10 years ago. Naturally, the defense here has been gradually relaxed. But this kind of thing, not to mention that ordinary people don't know, even in the Nephilim, only a few people who know the defense of Rogue Town well know it. As a result, the insect-type ghosts not only chose to attack here very accurately, but also sent aquatic ghosts that Ruger had never seen before. If you say that this is not planned, Ruger will never believe it. As for the ghosts, this feint attack alone is very strange. They actually drilled through the ground and directly attacked the Paladin cult's headquarters. And they directly destroyed the temple tower. This tower happened to be a relay signal tower for Akira, a high-level rogue town, controlled by the demons behind the cult. These two things are coincidences, but they hit the cult every time. Can it be a coincidence? Thinking of this, Ruger's eyes looked at the familiar insect ghosts in the center of the town with sharp eyes. Just as he stood at the entrance of the east gate and looked at the center of the town to watch the battle, the situation there changed again. First, the crack leading to the underground at the gate on the northeast side of the Paladin's residence widened again. Then, after a group of insect ghosts gushed out, a tank that looked very similar to the Puma armored vehicle also rushed out from the ground. It was not the modern version of the Puma infantry fighting vehicle in Ruger's hand, but a 234/2 Puma-wheeled armored reconnaissance vehicle from the World War II era. The reason why it looks very similar to the World War II Puma instead of the same is that its main gun is not the original 50mm caliber 60 x KWK-39 tank gun. It is a flamethrower gun that looks very similar to the M4 Sherman flamethrower tank or the OT-34 flamethrower tank. As soon as this guy appeared, he used the flamethrower on the turret to spray the area near the Temple of the Order. Although the main building of the order's residence is also mainly made of bricks and stones, the gate and the decorations on the wall, as well as a considerable part of the buildings inside the wall, are still taken from the wood in the nearby forest. The woods instantly burned up in unison after being sprayed with gasoline-like fuel by the inexplicable flamethrower armored vehicle. Quick, where's the ice mage? Go put out the fire. The Paladin Order is one of the armed organizations with the most combat experience. It immediately responded with the most effective response, using at least 3 ice elemental mages as the core of the spell casting, and released freezing spells towards the fire area. As soon as it saw someone challenging it, the flamethrower cougar tank immediately increased the dose and confronted the ice mages head-on. However, the ice mages have inexhaustible magic power, but the ghosts do not. The bombardment did not last long, less than a minute at most, and the slender jet tube of the fire-breathing cougar was completely silent. Seeing that the previously arrogant cougar armored reconnaissance vehicle was about to be pushed back by the mage, the hatch on the top of the turret was suddenly pushed open, and a strong man with long, dense, and very messy hair jumped out from inside. The man's appearance and temperament gave Ruger the feeling that he was especially like the Golden Lion King in the novel, and he was in his 30s. As soon as the middle-aged version of the Golden Lion King jumped out of the turret, he started cursing, and he really used the language of the lost. TMD. Not satisfied at all. Hey, hindsight, what did you say before? Why can't you drive the big guy out? He shouted at the underground crack behind him that was still constantly coming out of the insect-type ghost, and a knight suddenly ran out of the crack over there. This knight was not like a paladin, he only had a title without substance. She is riding a horse, or a real horse-like insect ghost. She is a real cavalryman. However, unlike the medieval heavy knight holding a lance, this lady who looks like the fallen rogue is holding a Kar 98K short carbine with a gold-plated surface and a walnut stock with complicated and mysterious patterns. As mentioned before, carbine originally meant horse gun and lance. It is a rifle used by light cavalry that is lighter than a regular rifle and has a shorter barrel, which is more suitable for use on horseback. So in modern times, the name carbine is given to a short-barreled rifle, similar to or even an assault rifle. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 275. It's a bit funny. The name originally came from the language of Fa, which means soldiers holding old-fashioned smoothbore muskets. Later, these soldiers evolved into special light cavalry, which became synonymous with lances. The reason why these soldiers holding old-fashioned muskets were called that name is said to be because the batch of muskets in Fa were purchased from Calabria. Calabria, the southern part of the Apennine Peninsula, historically belonged to the Kingdom of Naples and was one of the major kingdoms, republics, that constitute modern Bulk Italy. Kar 98K, the lowercase k at the back means short in the language of the zoo. The Kar in front is the abbreviation of carbine, and some say it is the abbreviation of buckle or carabiner. However, this buckle carabiner was originally used by cavalry to tie carbines. According to the etymological evolution, its root is still carbine. So from the name of this gun, it is shortened based on the carbine. However, even so, compared with modern short assault rifles that are often less than 700 mm in length, the Kar 98K, which is 1100 mm in length, or 1 meter and 1 meter, is undoubtedly still a long gun. Of course, it is precisely because it is too long that many people do not recognize that Kar is the abbreviation of carbine, and think that it is understood as its extended meaning, a special strap buckle design, which can better explain why it is so long. Ruger doesn't care about this, anything is fine. Anyway, the total length of the gun has been reduced from the original G to Kar. In short, the Kar 98K is still very long. This means that it is still difficult for shooters with ordinary strength to control, especially on horseback. but it also means that its long barrel can give the bullet higher kinetic energy under the premise of sufficient propellant. The ordinary World War II version of the 98K, firing Mauser bullets, can easily reach an effective range of 500 meters. If equipped with a scope, the range can be directly increased to 900 meters, and it can be used directly as a sniper rifle. As we all know, a scope will not enhance the firing process of the gun itself. The reason why the range becomes longer after adding a scope is that the original mechanical sight can no longer be used on a target farther away. Because the farther the target is, the smaller it looks in the human eye. When the target is so small that it is completely obscured by the crosshairs in the human eye, the mechanical sight cannot be used. As the saying goes, I understand the truth, but why is the pigeon so big? It can be seen that the ammunition of this gun is powerful enough or even too much, and it is actually people who limit its strength. As soon as this fallen rogue lady on horseback appeared, she casually raised the K98K, which can be called a work of art, and fired 3 consecutive shots at the ice mage. She actually shot the firing rate of a semi-automatic rifle with this rotating bolt-action single-shot rifle. You should know that the average firing rate of this gun in the hands of ordinary soldiers is only about 10 rounds per minute. A skilled shooter can increase the firing rate to 15 rounds per minute, and that's it. But compared to ordinary people, the young lady rogue on horseback holds the handguard with her left hand, and can hold the gun firmly with one hand. The right hand is responsible for shooting and pulling the bolt to load the gun, and the continuous movement is fast and accurate. Not only does it shuttle back and forth quickly between several positions, but there is no lag or adhesion. Ruger, who is also a good shooter, knows that her attainments in archery are definitely deep enough when she sees her like this. The grip is heavy and steady, and the shooting hand is accurate and fast. This is the master among shooters. She can even transplant the original bow and arrow rapid shooting skills so perfectly to the bolt-action rifle, and produce a rifle continuous shooting effect similar to a chain arrow. This sister on horseback is definitely the strongest shooter that Ruger has ever seen in the two worlds, no one else. What is Tia? Tia is the strongest gunner, and she is more desperate than this young lady. The horseback archer lady over there fired 3 consecutive shots, and each shot hit the 3 ice mages with incomparable accuracy. Although the 3 mages were only injured but not dead because of the paladin's defensive aura and the ice mage's own defensive magic ice armor, the young lady's power of presence still forced the paladin to switch from offense to defense. At the same time, she naturally resolved the crisis of the mature version of the Golden Lion King. The young lady, who was called Afterthought by the Golden Lion King, slowly pressed bullets into the 98K's built-in magazine while saying to the strong man, "Lion, control your hot temper. Didn't we try it last time? Drive that guy to the ground, and it will break down in less than 3 minutes. The special radiation here will damage the equipment in the car. It can't be used without biochemical improvement." Biochemical improvement? You want to install those disgusting biological tissues as mechanical equipment in my armor again? How can you tolerate that thing? The Golden Lion King, called the Lion, said angrily. Haha, disgusting biological tissue. Are you talking about yourself? Don't forget, in essence, we are the same as those biological tissues, we are all biochemically modified people, Miss Mahopao said sarcastically. No, it's your business if you want to think so, but I'm different. Lion was not discouraged by Miss Mahopao's words, but instead he straightened his chest and said proudly, "I am the chosen commander, the upper-level Iron Man warrior, Lion Leon." As he said that, the guy grabbed a long-handled battle axe from the back of the Puma reconnaissance armored vehicle, and the whole person started the Iron Man armored suit. After a while, the Golden Lion King, who was 2 meters tall before, turned into an armored warrior who was at least 2 meters and 3 meters tall, with broad shoulders and a round waist, and was broad and strong. The long-handled battle axe in his hand was much larger than before, and the axe blades on both sides were stretched to almost the same length as the blade of an ordinary single sword. His weapon could actually be transformed into Iron Man with him. This man was one of the 12 Iron Man commanders in the ghostly dungeon. A lion? Ruger narrowed his eyes as he looked at the man. On the one hand, he felt a kind of kindness for this ghostly Iron Man warrior who he hadn't seen for a long time. On the other hand, he was also very interested in this guy's technology or ability to Iron Man his weapon. This technology is very useful to him. Thinking of this, Ruger slowly nodded his head and decided that he really had to continue studying the radom tree in the logistics space biochemical laboratory when he returned. He had 2 genuine sacred trees of the ghostly charm in his hands, but his analysis and utilization of the Iron Man system was not as good as those Iron Man bodies transformed by the ghostly charm leader E-52 using monsters or demonized humans. This was intolerable. After the lion transformed into an Iron Man warrior, he immediately used his strong advantage and swung the double-edged battle axe in his hand to chop at the gate of the cult's residence. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi. Chapter 276. The wooden door had been severely damaged by gasoline before, and was forced to cool down by the freezing spell. Although the flames were extinguished, the rapid change of temperature would still cause damage to the material. Although the performance of wood in this regard is much higher than that of ordinary steel, some internal changes are still inevitable. In this way, when the lion Taijiaman, who was like a strongman, chopped it down with an axe, even Ruger, who was near the east gate, could hear the crisp sound of the wooden door. Then the lion Taijiaman chopped it up with a second axe, directly chopped a big hole in the big wooden door. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. However, watching him exert force on the wooden door, Ruger's mind was full of thoughts. Is it necessary? With this strength, wouldn't it be better to destroy the door bolt and door axis? He was just thinking about it, and the archer girl who had also transformed into a Taijiaman warrior said something similar. Then, she aimed a small cannon in her hand, which had also become larger from a 98K carbine due to the transformation of the iron gammon energy material, at the central bolt position of the gate, and blasted out a cannonball. According to Ruger's visual estimation, the caliber of the ammunition had become at least 20 mm, which was basically a small caliber cannon. However, judging from its principle of rotating bolt action, it should not be called a rapid-fire cannon, automatic cannon, or machine gun. It is more like an ancient weapon, an anti-tank rifle. In this way, the idea of the iron gammonization of the gun in the hands of the shooter is similar to Ruger's idea of replacing the guns of the ROGs with large-caliber anti-material automatic rifles. Tisk tisk, great minds think alike. Unlike Ruger, who agreed with the archer lady, after hearing her words, Lion Iron Man could not help but snort in dissatisfaction. Can't you say this earlier? It's always hindsight. Well, it seems that the origin of the name of the young lady is actually like this. Not only did he complain, but the lion was even more upset when he saw the archer shoot off the bolt of the wooden door with a shot, causing the middle door to open wide. He threw the battle axe in his hand at the paladin who didn't know what to do behind the door. The long-handled double-edged battle axe flew out in the air with great momentum and chopped on the paladin's plate armor in the blink of an eye. Their standard plate armor, which could at least block several full-power rifle armor-piercing bullets, was actually chopped directly by the lion's flying axe. The paladin's chest and abdomen immediately gushed blood, and he fell to the ground and died. Kill instantly. So amazing. It wasn't Ruger who was speaking, but Giulia who came to his side after coming to her senses. What are these two? Are they robots from your Lost Ones? Power armor? Mech warriors? Oh, this goth girl knows a lot. Ruger glanced at her, but he didn't want to explain to her the weird cult, the Radom tree, the Iron Man system, the energy matter conversion and the like. He just nodded and said, "That's about right." "Tisk tisk, I know it's not true from what you said." Unexpectedly, the goth girl was quite sharp and saw through Ruger's perfunctory attitude at a glance. "But forget it, I'm not interested anyway. It looks similar to my skeleton armor, what's the point?" Skeleton armor, Ruger was somewhat interested when he heard it, guessing that this skill was probably similar to the ice armor skill of the ice mage, so he asked, "Why didn't you use it before?" "Tisk, didn't I say it? I wasn't the real me at that time, how could I know what defensive skills to use?" When the gothic girl mentioned that she was controlled, she looked unhappy. Her eyes also flashed with a fierce light when she looked at the cult's headquarters. From the looks of it, if she wasn't afraid of attracting the ghosts over there, she would even cheer for the two ghost Iron Men directly. Ruger looked at her like this, and shook his head with some amusement and some helplessness, thinking that the friend or foe identification module in this girl's brain must be different from others. However, he didn't hate it. Anyway, this granddaughter is Akara's, not his own. There's no need to worry about it. As for his granddaughter, Ruger looked back and saw Anya standing in the cockpit, looking at this side with puffed cheeks and a bit jealous. He smiled at her and her expression eased. Looking back again, Ruger couldn't help but sigh secretly. His granddaughter was not that worry-free. But at least it was much less worry-free than Akara's. Look at the other side. The lion and the archer, one close combat and one long range, cooperated perfectly. With the cooperation of the two, they tied up the energy of most of the cult masters. In addition, the ghost army that continued to emerge from the cracks in the ground seemed to be going to take down the cult's base in one fell swoop today. Ruger also found that although they were only equipped with the simplest body armor, only protection but no weapons, and no powerful antimatter cannon, relying on their originally powerful bodies that had been demonized, these ghost Iron Man commanders should not be underestimated. I don't know what their original strength is, but now, these two Iron Man can at least contain 10-20 plus level Nephilim masters. Among them, there are at least 4 24 plus level. Two people are so powerful, if 12 Iron Man go out together, I'm afraid they can really destroy the strength of the Paladin Order in one fell swoop. However, Luger looked carefully at the entire battlefield, but found no trace of other Iron Man warriors. Even the three guys on the giant centipede land battleship that he saw with a drone in the ghostly dungeon last time showed no sign of appearing. What's going on? Could it be that the 12 Iron Mans have also divided into factions? Luger vaguely remembered that there seemed to be 2 men and 1 woman on the giant centipede land battleship last time. A minotaur, a goat-headed man, and a fallen rogue. This time there is a lion and a horse-riding archer. This set of ghostly seems to be cosplaying the 12 golden saints. Those 3 are Taurus, goat, and virgin. Then these 2 here, can't they be the lion and the centaur archer? Tisk tisk, the goat appeared. Where did the sheep go? Luger was wondering here, and saw another female monster that looked like a goat-headed man rushing out of the crack in the ground. The reason why this person is called a female is because her chest is so majestic and far superior to that of a male. However, the interesting thing is that this female goat-headed person has spiral horns on both sides of her head, which are unique to male sheep. The spiral center of the horns is exactly her 2 ears. Looking from the side, it seems that the horns on both sides are her earphones. Compared with the Golden Lion King who is almost unarmored and the Knight Archer who is wearing a typical rogue leather armor, this goat-headed person is right in the middle. Wearing half leather armor on the upper body, the defense of the lower body is completely left to his fur. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 277. Probably for the same reason, even though this sheep woman didn't ride a horse, her running speed was not much slower than the archer's ghost horse. She ran over here in a hurry, but she didn't transform or join the battle. She just shouted to the two iron men who had already entered the cult space, "Hurry up, you are too slow. Stop talking. Google searched can. Zionman, come and help." The Lion King and the Archer seemed to be very dissatisfied with this person's words, and expressed their dissatisfaction one after another. "Hey, it's agreed that I will be the messenger this time, and you will do the work." "Why, you still need my help, right?" the sheepman said with a smile. "I have brought you the message from the Pope, and you can handle the rest by yourselves. I still have to go to Xiaoer to pass on the message, so I won't accompany you. See you later." As she said that, the female sheepman turned around and ran 2 steps quickly, and then jumped back into the crack in the ground in a hurry. "Humph, lackey," seeing her leave quickly without any intention of helping, the lion who was swinging his giant axe to sweep across the paladins in front of him could not help but curse. "Forget it, be careful that she hears you and spreads bad things about you to the Pope, and makes things difficult for you," the archer advised. "What are you afraid of? At worst, I will learn from the bad boys and hide everywhere. If it doesn't work out, I will go to Luodu and continue to dig with them. It's better to help others and not only get no benefits, but also get complained about," the lion said in a muffled voice. That's what he said, but the axe in his hand was more fierce and faster than the other one. Obviously, the archer's previous words were not without effect. Seeing him like this, the archer on the horse didn't say much, but while driving the ghost horse under him to turn around on the battlefield, he used the large anti-tank rifle in his hand to continuously shoot the hard-shelled paladins blocking the lion in front of him. The attack speed of the two suddenly increased a lot. They didn't avoid anyone in their conversation. In their opinion, the Nephilim in the surrounding rogue town couldn't understand their language. Originally, they used the national language of the Zoo of the Lost World. Although not many people in Rogue Town knew this language, there were still one or two. For example, Shalashia, they all knew it more or less. But the female sheepman who ran over earlier changed to another language, and the two people here also changed to that language. Ruger didn't know that language at first. But with the language pack provided by the system, he quickly gained the ability to understand their conversation. It was an ancient Semitic language, Aramaic. Ruger looked at the introduction of this language in the system description. It was fine for other things, but the entry actually said that this language was the mother tongue of the Messiah Joshua, who extended the monotheism of his own nation to foreigners. This made Ruger immediately guess the reason why the ghosts used this language. Could it be that their prophet, the new generation Messiah Noah, will inherit the will of the previous generations? Do you really want Gaime to become the new generation of humans? Ruger was wondering when he heard the two lions mumbling over there. As a result, the conversation between the lion and the shooter over there contained too much information, which forced him to give up his previous thoughts and concentrate on listening to the gossip here. In the end, he really heard a lot of things. First, these two and the female sheepman just now said several names. Xiaoyuer, bad boy, old cow. Combined with the lion, the shooter, and the sheep here, let's make a bold guess. Xiaoyuer, is he a cosplay Pisces? That bad boy seems to be most likely a Gemini. Old cow, needless to say, that is Taurus. Once again confirmed the system of the 12 golden saints. Including the lion side, it seems that the 12 commanders are divided into 4 waves. Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries are one group, Taurus, Capricorn and Virgo are another group, and the remaining 2 groups have 1 Pisces and 1 Gemini respectively. How does this sound like the water and fire signs of the zodiac? The 3 Tauruses are earth signs, and according to Leo, they are going to drill and dig. Could this be their job positioning, to continue digging down the ghostly dungeon and looking for usable materials? Gemini's air sign is described by Leo as hiding everywhere, which is also in line with the general characteristics of the air sign. Pisces is a water sign, and Aries said that they would continue to bring messages to them. Could it be that the aquatic ghosts on the river are actually their subordinates? Then the three people on Leo's side are fire signs. It just so happens that Leo originally used a Cougar reconnaissance armored vehicle with the main gun converted into a flamethrower. Well, these ghostly 12 Iron Men are really going to cosplay the Golden Saints. However, in these few short sentences, Lugger also caught a hint of something strange. It seems that among the 12 Iron Men, only the fire and water teams obeyed the orders of the Pope and worked honestly. The Earth team went to mine to avoid being dispatched. The Wind team relied on their speed to run around, avoiding the Pope or his messenger, in order to avoid being dispatched, but not to hurt the surface of the friendship. These strange Iron Men seem to have some tricks. But Ruger thinks this is not a bad thing. They have some small calculations of their own, which is better than being united, close, and obeying orders. But then again, there is nothing wrong with enforcing orders. Why did Ruger suddenly go back to make up for it? Because he just glanced across the entire battlefield and found that the ghosts that emerged from the cracks in the ground were actually rushing towards the cult headquarters one after another. As for other directions around, they had no interest at all. As long as the Nephilim in other directions, or even the Paladin's companion knights, did not actively attack them, they would treat those Nephilim as if they did not exist. Of course, if there were Paladins around, his treatment would be different, and he would still be attacked by the ghosts. What does this mean? It means that the orders these ghosts received were to attack the Paladin cult headquarters and the Paladins. There was probably an additional instruction not to take the initiative to attack others. Otherwise, these ghosts would not be like this now. Ruger naturally welcomed this performance of the ghosts. As a result, he also had a better impression of the unknown new pope mentioned by the ghost Taijiaman. It's hard to say who the new pope is, but looking at the overall structure of the ghosts, their old pope is most likely the ghost commander electronic lifeform E52 who was caught by Ruger and eaten by the Shadow Link's Old Noisy. In this case, could it be Old Noisy? Then rounding it off, wouldn't it be Tia? In any case, if the new pope gave the ghosts the orders that Ruger guessed, then Ruger really wanted to have a good talk with the new pope. For example, discuss cooperation, and cooperation. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 278. What? What should we do about the genocide of the ghostly and the lost ones? Ruger only claims to be a lost one, he is not really a lost one. Google search reading. If there is any hatred between him and Ghostly, it is because he killed Ghostly. If Ghostly can really obey the orders of the new pope and not harm other humans, it is not impossible for the two sides to negotiate a peace agreement. The key is to have a common, powerful enemy that is strong enough to destroy oneself. The Paladin Order seems to be unqualified to be this enemy, but what if it is the cunning demon behind them? One of the 7 giants of hell, commanding thousands of demons. Is this guy qualified? In a moment, Ruger has come up with several sets of rhetoric to fool the new ghostly pope, making it pay attention to the demon, and join forces with humans and Nephilim. He was just daydreaming when he heard Sarah's puzzled voice behind him, "What are you doing?" When she saw that the white-haired woman in black clothes beside Ruger was actually a female undead, she widened her eyes and asked in surprise, "Giulia, why are you here? Could it be that you were also taken in by Ruger?" In fact, she wanted to say caught alive, but when she turned around and saw Anya on the bear assault cannon, she changed her words. She knew that Ruger was now very fond of this little wizard, and she tried not to say anything that would make her sad. Especially at this time. Sarah secretly warned herself. "What do you mean by taken in? Do you think I will be conquered by a mere male beauty?" Giulia was not happy when she heard this. She was not interested in the rogue system, and Sarah was still dressed like a rogue patrolman. Of course, she would not tolerate it, so she immediately scolded her back. If it were normal times, Sarah would have dealt with this guy long ago when she heard his rude words. But now she has something to worry about, and before she can figure out the specific relationship between her and Ruger, it is not easy to take action directly. However, she also has a way. For the time being, she ignores the female undead and turns to ask Anya, the young wizard. Although Anya did not expect that she would suddenly ask her at this time, she still told her everything that happened after she left. When Sarah left, Ruger just shot Gialia down with a gun, and it was unknown whether she was dead or alive. However, not long after Sarah left, Ruger told her that the female undead was actually only fainted but not dead. Sarah also heard these clearly on the way. But she didn't know what happened after that. When she heard Anya say that Akara had passed away and that the rock guards who guarded her had left alone and disappeared, Sarah couldn't help but sigh, and her expression was indescribably lonely. Akara had 1,000 faults, and the old man was really looking for a way for Rogtown to survive. All the people in Rogtown, regardless of other interests, at least owe her a life. Without her, all the people in Rogtown now can't even be born. Such a person died quietly, how could Sarah not be touched? After a sigh, she solemnly performed a formal ceremony of the blind sisters to the place where the old man died, as a farewell to the old boss. Seeing her performance, Gialia, who was eager to continue to trouble her before, also quietly calmed down. After all, she was mourning for Akara. After all, that person was also her grandmother. For the death of the old man, it is impossible for Gialia to be as she said, that she really has no feelings. For a while, the atmosphere around the four people was particularly quiet and solemn. But soon, the shouting and scolding from the battlefield of the cult space over there suddenly woke up the four people. Looking over again, I found that Austin and his party, who had evacuated from the east wall, had appeared in front of the Core Holy Light Hall in the garrison square. This scene really felt like when Sarah pushed the front line of the rogue troops to the front of the Cathedral of the Blind Sisters Monastery. It was just that the monsters under Andariel were replaced by the paladin cult under the cunning demon god. And Sarah, who led rogue to attack, was replaced by the lion and archer who led the insect-type ghost army. In a trance, Austin's angry shouting seemed to have a bit of the monster's desperate situation. Luigi, what should we do? At this time, Anya suddenly asked in a low voice. Do we really have to watch those monsters destroy the cult? I'm not pleading for the cult, I mean, what if those monsters destroy the cult and then attack others? They dare. Hearing this, Gialia's eyes flashed with light green soul energy, and it was obvious that she was ready to act at any time. No, it shouldn't be. Sarah ignored the two and looked directly at Ruger. Although they seem to be attacking hard now, from the formation, they are not moving the center of the battle forward now. If I use this formation, it is probably to gain a favorable situation for the withdrawal of the large army. I think they should retreat soon. What? After hearing her analysis, Gialia didn't believe it at all. Who is this person? He is not a high-ranking official, but he is very arrogant. She spoke as if she was a strategic master. But Anya looked relieved. There was no way. Sarah was the commander of the Ruger troops. Now that Kasha and Akara died one after another, Ruger's guards were missing. She was already the supreme commander of Ruger in name and in fact. In addition, she was the first person in 20 years to lead Rog to counterattack the cathedral. Anya might not trust her in other aspects, but she definitely trusted Sarah's expertise in battle formations. However, from the moment Sarah said the first sentence, Ruggy, who looked into her eyes, read something else from her eyes. Or, she deliberately expressed something else to Ruggy. There is actually another reason for this matter. We'd better talk about it privately as soon as possible. In response, Ruggy's response was also simple and direct, okay, as soon as possible. Confirming that Ruggie had received her meaning that she wanted to explain but couldn't say it directly in front of others, Sarah secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She was also a little surprised at her mentality. When did she start to value this person's opinions and positions so much? Just because he was the real breaker in the mouth of the man who was also an outsider 20 years ago? No, that can't be said. Over the years, I have seen more than one outsider who was suspected of being a breaker, but in the end, the facts proved that they were not. And this is not just about their strength. The man in front of me, apart from the dazzling lost weapons and full metal alchemy, in terms of personal strength, may still be at the bottom of everyone. But this time, I really feel that he is different. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-chi-ji. Chapter 279. This person, from the most essential thoughts, or the soul level, is different from those people. He seems to be able to identify with himself and support himself from the bottom of his heart. Instead of pretending to be good to himself for the sake of interests, his true heart was exposed at the critical moment, and he failed at the last minute, which not only ruined his previous efforts, but also harmed their lives. Hope, hope. Sarah was reminiscing about the past, worried about gains and losses, and the light in her eyes was unpredictable and erratic. Ruger was so tired of watching her. He thought, how many secrets does this Commander Rog have in his heart? She must be very uncomfortable holding back secrets that she can't tell anyone for so many years, and she really wants to talk to someone, right? Perhaps, I, who have no conflict of interest with her, am a pure outsider, and want to continue to maintain an outsider position, is the best person for her to talk to. It seems that it's time to talk to her earlier. After finishing the things here and earning more points, it's time for me to go back to my own world. Hiss. Why does it sound like I'm setting a flag for myself? My heart that yearns for adventure will never stop. Going back is also another adventure, not going back to my hometown to spend my old age. It's not a flag, no. My mind was full of random thoughts, and Ruger's eyes became unpredictable. Anya and Gialia, who were waiting for the two to continue talking so that they could hear something from them, looked at each other in surprise when they saw that the two not only did not talk, but also performed a kaleidoscope of eyes to them. Gialia also looked at Anya and asked, "They are communicating with their eyes? Can you understand?" Anya, "I can't understand." Gialia, "So you can't understand it either?" Anya blinked, "I can't understand." Gialia frowned and thought for a moment, suddenly right fist hit left palm, "You can't understand their eyes, or can't understand mine." Anya blinked again, "I can't understand." Gialia. The four people formed two pairs, and while practicing eye skills here, they heard a dull but inexplicably exciting horn sound coming from underground. Hearing this sound, the ghosts on the ground immediately launched a fierce attack on the paladins in the cult space. It's a general attack. The enemy launched a general attack. Quick, defend. Hold on, you must hold on. The people of the cult exclaimed, and also pulled the four people here back from their own minds. Gialia looked suspicious, not knowing what happened. But Anya and Ruger both looked at Sarah, their eyes full of "It seems you are right." Sure enough, along with the saturation attack of the insect-type charm, the two Iron Man warriors, the lion and the shooter, also entered the burst mode. The melee lion danced with the long-handled double-edged battle axe in his hand, which was impenetrable and blocked the attack of the paladin. He also always knocked away several plate-armored paladins who came to fight in close combat. The long-range shooter used the anti-tank rifle in his hand directly as a machine gun. A series of large-caliber bullets seemed to be continuously produced in the gun barrel out of thin air. She shot them at the back row of paladin defense formations very quickly, and the opponent dared not do anything except raise the shield to block. To be honest, even when facing Ruger the day before yesterday, the paladin defense formation was not as embarrassed as it is now. It can be seen how much pressure the shooter's continuous shooting put on them. Seeing this scene, Ruger couldn't help but secretly complain, thinking that his firepower was still not enough. "Turn around, we have to increase the firepower." While he was complaining, the three people next to him were still paying attention to the battle situation. When the two Iron Mans broke out, Giulia was ready to mock Sarah's previous judgment. Asked her, "Is this what you said about them retreating? They are afraid that they will directly defeat the cult." However, before she could say anything, she found that the situation on the field had changed. While the two Iron Mans beat the enemy so hard that they couldn't raise their heads, the surrounding insect-type ghosts quietly withdrew from the front line. And while they retreated, they also dragged away the dead bodies of their own kind. In a short while, they retreated most of the way into the cracks in the ground. This. Seeing this scene, the surprise on Giulia's face was as if she had seen a ghost. Oh no, she herself is a necromancer, and seeing ghosts is a daily routine for her. In short, in addition to suspicion, the look in her eyes when she looked at Sarah was also full of "Who is this Rog? How can he control the battle situation so well? This person can't be unknown, but why have I never heard of her?" At this time, she remembered the inexplicable belief of Ruger and even Anya towards her, and looked at the two unconsciously. Anya still looked like as expected. "The man over there, oh, that man. What's going on?" Giulia saw him looking at the female Iron Man with his eyes shining, breathing heavily inexplicably from his nostrils, like a pervert seeing a beautiful woman, and she couldn't help but feel a chill all over her body. This guy, could he be attracted to that ghost? His men are really disgusting, and they are even interested in monsters, perverted. How could she know that Ruger was just greedy for the anti-tank rifle in the guy's hand that seemed to have unlimited bullets and would not overheat and explode even if fired continuously? Look at the battlefield over there. The fierce attack of the Lion and the Sagittarius lasted for quite a long time. Several times, the Paladins felt that they could no longer hold on, and even had to take drugs, a variety of alchemical potions that replenish life, physical strength, energy, and magic power, to grit their teeth and persevere. Finally, when they reached a critical point in time, they suddenly discovered that the frequency and intensity of the opponent's attacks seemed to have begun to decrease. This discovery gave the Paladins unlimited confidence, and they finally managed to hold on until the opponent's attacks almost completely stopped. "The enemy's attack has stopped, prepare for counterattack." Before Austin could finish his words to boost morale and fight back, he saw the bare battlefield in front of him. Not to mention it was weird, there wasn't even a corpse on the entire battlefield. Those who fell sporadically in the square were all war casualties from their own side. He looked further away and saw that even the two Taijaman leaders who had just suppressed him and others to fight had both retreated to the gate of the station. At this moment, he was waving goodbye to himself, as if he was saying to himself, "See you later. Damn it. Fooled. Chase. They were repelled by us, let me chase them." Austin was worthy of being Austin. When he saw Yomei retreating on his own initiative, he immediately changed the battlefield situation from the cult was suppressed by the cult, and finally managed to hold on to the cult was beaten away by the cult. When he said this, those in the cult who reacted slowly were still confused, while those who reacted quickly had already shouted slogans of killing and rushed towards the cracks in the ground. With that look, those who didn't know would really think that they had beaten Yomei away. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 280. However, as a result, some people rushed forward to kill, while others were stunned on the spot. The Paladin battle formation that had previously cooperated closely with each other was inevitably divided into several sections. Google search reading. The two Tigamans over there looked at each other and slightly slowed down their retreat. Searched Kan on Google. When the blind paladins rushed forward, Liang Taijiaman immediately turned around and fired a set of carbine rifles. Without the defensive support of a full set of battle formations, the paladins who charged alone were immediately swept away by the two men, and they were not sure whether they were alive or dead. No, come back quickly, don't chase the poor bandits. When someone took the opportunity to beat him up, he once again don't chase the criminals when they are poor. Austin, the paladin leader, seems to have focused all his talent on talking and plotting. In terms of battle formation, he is really not up to par. And with the power of the set of carbine rifles, the two Tejamans also calmly jumped back to the crack in the ground under the gaze of the paladin. A moment later, there was a roar of explosives from the cracks in the ground. Looking over again, the crack in the ground has completely collapsed, and the passage has been tightly blocked by the collapsed earth and rocks. Now, even if the paladins want to follow the underground passage to counter-attack the charm in the future, it will be impossible. Austin, who was disgraced by Gui Mei's tactics, gritted his teeth at the collapsed ground seam. Secretly swearing that he would get this thing right without mentioning it, he quickly thought of the previous wave of enemies that made him hate him so much. Ruger et al. He was just about to lead his troops to vent his anger on those people. When he glanced at the east gate, he found that there was no one there either. What's going on? Where is the lost one from before? Austin yelled. They left. Just when the group of ghosts retreated, they exited from the east city gate and ran away. I just saw it, a paladin nearby reported. What's going on? Austin also wanted to ask him why he didn't report the enemy when he saw them running away, but he heard another paladin cleaning the battlefield next to him hurried back and said, "Sir, it's bad. All the prisoners in the prison are gone." What? Austin was not in the mood to care about Lugger's affairs at this time, and hurriedly asked his men. All of them ran away. Those Lugger. Run away. That female savage. Run away too. Damn it, Austin cursed fiercely, where are those Rog guards in Akala? Call them back. Let them find a way to solve Rog's problem. Report to your lord, they also ran away. Austin, %#\U0026 at. No matter how the Paladin Order will make up for this loss in the future, or how it will change the pattern of Rogtown, Lugger, following the speed of the Little Bear assault cannon, has left the site of Rogtown and entered the second shelter. Quasi-sphere of influence. As reported by the Holy Knights of the Order, when it was discovered that Sui Mei indeed began to retreat with a round of fierce attacks, Lugger also withdrew from Rogtown. Everyone knows that after Gui Mei retreats, with the nature of the cult, they will probably turn around and deal with Lu Ji and the others. And Lugger's purpose of coming here to rescue Minerva has been achieved, so why stay and waste time with the cult? No points earned. I don't know what happened this time. Normally, saving Minerva should trigger a system task, right? But no. The two tasks worth 300 to 500 points were not triggered. But to this day, Lugger doesn't care about the 3 melons and 2 dates given to him by this kind of mission. If he wanted to, he could sell the magic gems he got from doing business with Sarah in the system store, and that would be thousands of points. This made him sigh. Sure enough, it is much faster to make money if you have your own power company than to earn hard money by working odd jobs alone. The situation on the battlefield was almost exactly what Sarah had expected, which made Kalia full of curiosity about her. As a result, when Luge left, she, who was originally the princess of Luge Town, had to come back with him. Her reason was that she thought it would be more interesting to hang out with Lugger. In addition, with the current situation, if she stayed in Rogtown, she would be controlled by the cult again. This is something she would rather die than want to experience again. Seeing that she had said so, Luodu couldn't push her away, even if he kept her by default. However, her authority in the second sanctuary will not be too high, at least one level lower than the previous Minerva. In the past, Minerva was Tia and Lugger's friend and teammate, but she was not a member of the second sanctuary. To use an analogy of personnel management in modern society, it is probably the unlimited time-limited visiting friend visa issued by Tia and Ruger. They can stay in the shelter as long as they want, but they do not have permanent residence status and do not count as local household registration. So this female necromancer Jalaya can only be regarded as an acquaintance of Luodu, not an acquaintance. In the same metaphor, she has a tourist visa that is not short-term, but she may be asked to leave at any time, and matters related to the confidentiality of the shelter will not be open to her. Although Kalia mumbled her dissatisfaction with this, she finally accepted it. Okay, I've accepted this. If there was no evil behind her coming, Luodu didn't believe it. But it doesn't matter to him, since there are more than 1 or 2 people with problems in the shelter anyway. Broadly speaking, doesn't Sarah, who was still sitting in the captain's seat and hesitated to speak, have some problems? Ruger is open-minded enough in this regard and doesn't care. Discussing the matter at hand, judging by deeds rather than intentions, is his attitude. Soon, everyone drove the assault guns back to the second shelter. The 3 rogue cars that arrived at the shelter first had been arranged to solve the problems of food, drink, and accommodation under the command of Tia, who stayed behind. With Ruger's healing potion as a foundation, Minerva had also recovered a lot, and was greeting her new rogue friends with full energy. She looked like she was half the owner of the shelter, and was not at all shy. Ruger didn't mind her behavior at all. Instead, he walked over and picked up a bowl of steaming fungal blanket stew and sat down in front of her. While eating, he said to her, "What position should I assign you, Lord Minerva of the second shelter?" "That kind of thing, you can handle it." Lord Ruger Minerva ate the broth in the bowl with a huff, and casually called a human guard who had been trained by her, and arranged for that guy to give her another bowl. He also added, "Less soup and more meat. Then, let's be the instructor of these boys, officially." "No problem. Then, Mr. Instructor Minerva, your first teaching task is to teach them how to solve their other half problems." As he said this, Ruger looked meaningfully at the human guards around him who were diligently handing water and soup to the rogues.